Let's just assume that we are all starting out, and if I was starting out today, what would I be doing? Understand that if you are a freelancer, you are an underdog. Let every soul who is connected to you know that you are here. If you have clients and you want better paying clients, you just need to infiltrate better circles. That's it. It's all about community. Okay, it's everything. I did my first workshop and I had 25 students who paid me 5k, and then I got another job which was a scam. But coming back to the thing, I think the exact word is the creative security. And the concept is like with design, especially like the things that you watch on YouTube, the things that you watch in terms of shows, movies, the music that you listen to and everything, all of it kind of really caters to like what is the aesthetic that you're building for yourself. And that's why we see that some designers, unfortunately, it may be a hot take, but like a lot of people with some kind of, like हम सब भी उनमें से ही आते हैं, but like just because we have some sort of a privilege कि हमें अंग्रेजी आती है, हम लोग अच्छे स्कूलों में गए, हम Netflix देखते हैं, हम वो करते हैं, right? We have a better design aesthetic than some other people coming in from like different parts of Pakistan, right? And if you really think about it, it's not like something deep or it's not like something that, it's just, it is what it is, right? बहुत चीज़ ये मैटर करती है हम जो privilege से आते हैं, क्योंकि even आप अगर health care से perspective से देखते हैं, let's look at design, people who have money, who have privilege, can afford health care. Not only in Pakistan, but like everywhere in the world, right? Obviously in some countries it's like for everyone, but technically it's not, because when people have money, they can eat healthy. When they can eat healthy, they can minimize a lot of these problems. When you look at people who don't have privilege, who are coming from like वो लोग खाना तो खा रहे हैं, but like there are problems with the food that they eat, the hospitals that you go to, and blah blah, right? So privilege really plays a part into it, and I think understanding your privilege is like a very important thing, right? Because of two things. एक तो you get to understand, for example, the brands that you wear, right? If you are a person who goes, and I mean Pakistani brands mein to, I think for male you don't really get to give a lot of good examples, but like for females, let's say you get to experience shopping at, for example, Khadi or like Generations and whatever, they have such a good brand us tarike se, right? And an aesthetic and like all of that. And someone who shops just at random even though in Pakistan there's such a diversity of like everyone shops everywhere, but like the fact that you're exposed to these brands, it kind of does add to your taste. So a lot of these brands also do such good branding, and like I feel like Generation already does a good job in terms of using the current stars, influencers, and like the aesthetic that they have, the art directors that they have, those, it just comes together very nicely also. But regardless, my point is that everything that you watch, every podcast that you listen to does add to how good your design will become. Because a lot of people just like with university, लोग बहुत hate देते हैं university this and that, but university does cater to like putting you into the right set of podcasts, the right set of circles, right? That's very important, because if you are not going through an institute, it's very hard to navigate and be part of certain communities or circles or society or like these groups. That is the next thing that I'm coming to, which is how do you get projects, right? And I know that everyone talks about okay, you do this and you do that. Of course you need to do certain things, but we all know people around us that have never made a portfolio in their life and they're making great money, right? They have never even made a Behance, they don't update their Instagram, they don't even do LinkedIn. It's just because they know people who get them projects, or they know people who know people, basically. सही है? तो ये चीज़ जो है ना, हमारा कंपैरिजन उस चीज़ से नहीं हो सकता, बिकॉज दैट इज एवरीवन हैज़ लाइक अ डिफरेंट वे ऑफ लाइक गेटिंग टू अ पॉइंट वेयर दे वांट टू गेट, राइट? एंड आई डोंट वांट टू टर्न इट इनटू मोटिवेशनल स्पीच, बट बीइंग वेरी रियलिस्टिक, राइट? कि जो लोग, अब आपने अगर देखा है कि इफ़ यू वर्कड लाइक फॉर द लास्ट ईयर, कि अगर आप देखें और आपने जितनी चीज़ें की हैं, they eventually open up to things, because the simple idea is that if I recommend you guys a place in Karachi to eat, no matter how bad it is or if you've heard about it or not, you would kind of take a recommendation because it's someone that you are familiar with, told you about something. That's very simple, right? And that's especially the relationship that we have with food. Someone recommended it, and we're kind of going there. That's why food and fashion influencers play such a big part, because they recommend us things. And if you go in a bit more detail, if you listen to design podcasts and film podcasts and all of that stuff, now you have people recommending about designers and films and all of that stuff. So it's more about just expanding your knowledge, right? And you need to become a nerd, and you need to really find and search a graphic design podcast, right? And you need to find them, you need to find the one that kind of you like, you don't, but basically आपको एक अच्छा एक balance create करना है, because everything you kind of do does cater to it, right? And now just to kind of add to that part where getting clients and all of that stuff, I know like it's like a general thing. Like I have met people who make 1 lakh rupees a month. They are always talking about कि अच्छा clientele हमें और बढ़ाना है, बड़े clients चाहिए, और जो लोग 10 लाख रुपए महीने की भी बना रहे हैं वो लोग भी यही बात करते हैं, right? It's a very general thing, and you will never be satisfied, okay? Because as like a freelancer or like someone who runs a studio and whatever, the feeling of like okay, I know I'm sorted for the next 2 months, but what is going to happen after that, right? That is like a feeling that stays. And no matter how stable your projects get, because आपको एक project मिल गया, let's say for 20 lakhs, but then in your head you're like, okay, I have 20 lakhs for the next 6 months. What about after that, And that is something, I don't know if you guys go through that, but that's like a very natural feeling that all creatives kind of go through, right? No matter how good paying your projects get or like whatever, right? That's why like there's nothing bad with a 9 to 5 also, right? And I know like it's very popular to hate on a 9 to 5 just because of the internet has made it like that. But the 9 to 5 has like a lot of things जो आपको stability देते हैं, जो आपको वो करते हैं, और वो सारी चीज़. Of course, it's not for everyone. Like being doing a 9 to 5 and whatever, you can sometimes make more money than what businesses also make. Because the price you pay at a business is insane. Like even if we talk about, for example, me and Kanza have like a Notion board जिसपे एक सेक्शन है which is just like boot camp का हमारा एक वो स्टूडेंट की लिस्ट है, हमारे पास क्या है, किससे फॉर्म फिल किया, and like all of like managing like the students, right? Just like general, but also we have like how much money have we spent on just the boot camp itself, and you'd be amazed how much you have to invest to kind of churn this out, right? So everything requires that. And sometimes I also feel like, yaar, I wish I could just get a project without doing something, get students to come to my podcast, my class without doing something. But it's like a give and take process, right? When you're part of a company, you're giving and taking, obviously, you're doing your job and whatever, but you don't pay the price of what if the client doesn't show up. You will pretty much get your salary. What if the event doesn't happen? You will get your salary, right? वो एक system में आप एक हिस्सा होते हो, तो उसके बाद फायदे होते हैं. So whenever you're working or whatever, take it as like a, like don't take it for granted. Jobs really do help. They give you, obviously, if you work in a toxic environment, either it's your own business or someone else's business, it is going to be bad, right? वो चीज़ तो आप, you can't deny that, right? But yeah, so coming back to this thing with people building on portfolios, people building on projects, and sometimes it doesn't really make sense कि like if you guys are working on your personal brand, जो अभी हम देखेंगे, is like it may feel like okay, मैंने अपना logo बना लिया, अपना color palette बना लिया, और like कहाँ है मेरे clients, but that doesn't really equate to you getting clients, right? If someone comes to your profile, someone comes and is like किसी ने आपका recommend किया, और वो जब वो आते हैं, this is where they kind of think about okay, this person is the right person. You are building that aha moment for a potential client or someone, right? And I think अगर मुझे, for example, I checked last night, I had 7,999 followers on Instagram. Maybe there are 8,000 now, and all of them are not clients. There are a lot of people who just like to see art. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, Areeb maybe does cool things, or there are a lot of people who have seen me like doing different parts of things. So don't think of everything as like a very direct relationship to like getting a client. So yeah, I hope that part makes sense. Now the second part is, if you have clients and you want better paying clients, you just need to infiltrate better circles. That's it. It's all about community. Okay? It's everything. So even if I will talk about my personal journey in terms of client, there is no blueprint. There is no like, yaar, acha, aap ye presentation dekhen, ye podcast suno, and whatever, you'll kind of get it. Every freelancer or every studio, everyone has like kind of their own way of like kind of navigating through this. I'll talk about like what I kind of learned and where did I learn it from. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are aware of Chris Do, The Future, right? How many of you guys are not aware of him? Anyone who's not aware of Chris Do, the future? Fahad, you are not aware of him? Nope. Okay, ठीक है. And Ahmed Masood, अच्छा, it's okay. So I'll share the link with you guys. I think कोई और भी share कर लेगा, वो कोई chat में share कर ले. I think Fahad Mir, if you can just share it in the chat also. So he's a person who is a design educator and a consultant. And his own content is talking about branding, design, negotiation of prices and whatever. Like, it's like golden content. Like 4 saal of my universities somewhere in Cyprus doesn't even equate to like what he taught me, you know. And this is a joke that I sometimes joke about with my friends, like whatever success I have, I owe like it to him, right? Because when you kind of come into a place where in Pakistan where there's so much gatekeeping, right? And there is gatekeeping, theek hai, but at the same time, it's not like if there is no gatekeeping, there are people who are contributing and sharing experiences, kind of helping. Of course, now people are, because now they've think it's a trend to give value. बट जब 2 साल पहले एक ट्रेंड नहीं था कि आप रील बनाओ और एक वैल्यू दो, उससे उस टाइम पे कोई नहीं कर रहा था, राइट? Now everyone's sharing like resources and all of that, which is good. That also helps. But like एक जब बड़े designers or like, you know, people who are known in the agency, वो अपनी नौकरियां कर रहे हैं, बस वो अपने projects कर रहे हैं. Regardless, so Chris Do was like a very good person for me to kind of really kind of navigate through, understand a few things and just build on that. ठीक है? So that is something that you can kind of look at it also. So there were a few things that I kind of understood when I was starting out, right? I know some of you are starting out, some of you have already been in, but just assume that we are all starting out. And if I was starting out today, what would I be doing? So the very first thing is understand that if you are a freelancer, you are an underdog, ठीक है? Because आपके इर्द गिर्द हर कोई नौकरियां कर रहा है, ये कर रहा है, someone's in their families, businesses and whatever, someone's not even working, you know, they're just like doing random things and like still doing their masters, figuring out life and whatever, and you have made a decision that I am going to freelance, okay? Now that makes you an underdog. Now if you have taken that decision, now the second thing is, let every soul who is connected to you know that you are here, right? Like you are doing this, okay? Now this is the part that we lack, where we don't like, does all of the people in your friend circle know? Everyone on like, you know, जब हमारे पास Facebook पे 500-600 friends होते हैं for the last 10 years, do they all know that you do this, right? That's very important to understand. Because once you establish that and then you go like, oh, मुझे काम नहीं मिल रहा, it's basically you are the problem here, because you haven't let anyone know. ठीक है? Because your first projects that you will get will be from the circle that's around you. Now I haven't been using like, अभी तो I'm also logged out of my Facebook account because मेरा नंबर पाकिस्तानी है, उस पर कोड नहीं आता है, whatever, right? But whatever I post on Instagram, I just also post on Facebook. ठीक है? वो डायरेक्टली पोस्ट हो जाता है. I never like, sometimes I get 0 likes, 2 likes, 3 likes and whatever, but I keep on like just having the same thing. And I've realized जो Facebook पे, and I would do that like even पहले when I was talking about my poster design challenge, right? I'm sure some of you guys remember, I don't know कितने लोग थे उस time, but वो जो मैं daily poster बनाया था, right? उससे क्या होता था, I just had content every day to post, like every day a poster. And I realized कि जो मैं Facebook पे भी डालता था, I build up like the audience that I had, like when I was in grade 6 and my seniors were in grade 10, when I was in university, they were graduated doing businesses in companies. All of those people would see my work on Facebook, because Facebook is like so nostalgic, at least for me. मैं Facebook खोलता हूँ, I always see like पुराने उस स्कूल के लोग, सबकी शादियाँ हो रही हैं, किसी का बच्चा हो गया है, कोई अपनी नौकरी के बारे में बता रहा है, someone's like, you know, those cringe photos that they're like visiting Dubai or Turkey or Thailand or whatever. But in all of the midst of that, like I would still keep posting my work. And I realized my initial projects were from this. So the first project that I got fired from a job, and I'll tell you exactly what I was making on that job. It was just before COVID hit. Like just COVID शुरू हुआ था, there were rumors, वो जो time था ना COVID का, and I was making 80,000 rupees, 85,000 to be exact, on a job in Karachi एक studio में, ठीक है? And the reason I had the privilege of saying every time I went to a job like I can't do this, because on the freelance I was making like 40-50,000 rupees ऊपर नीचे. On my job if I'm making 50,000, मैं साइड पे 50,000 freelance पे कर रहा था. Like मेरा एक दोस्त का स्टार्टअप था, तो उसको मैं हेल्प कर रहा था, वो मुझे 15,000 रुपए दे रहा था महीने के. तो I was like, okay, I'm making 50,000. These jobs would like to make 1 lakh rupees pretty much all together, right? But then I realized, you know what? Abhi, at that time, I didn't have like expenses to pay and whatever, everything was pretty. I was like, you know what, I'll quit this another job also. And then I got another job, which was a scam, okay? So the person calls me up, he's like, Areeb, and all they saw, my portfolio was like my poster designs, right? मैं interview में गया, सब ना मेरे इंस्टाग्राम पे पोर्टफोलियो मेरा पोस्टर्स देख रहे हैं. दे वर लाइक, दिस इज इट, यू आर व्हाट वी नीड लाइक इनोवेटिव डिज़ाइन लीड हमें चाहिए, तो आप प्लीज़ हमारी कंपनी ज्वाइन करें और हम आपको एक टीम देंगे और हमारे जो भी क्लाइंट्स हैं ना, हम उनको जो इनोवेटिव प्रोजेक्ट्स पिच कर रहे हैं ना, उस पर आप काम करोगे बस. आई वाज लाइक, दिस इज अ विन विन सिचुएशन, राइट? आई गेट टू बिकम एन इनोवेटिव डिज़ाइन लीड एंड आई वाज जस्ट लाइक 20 at that time, and not that it mattered for me कि मैं अपनी इस एज में ये अचीव कर रहा हूँ. I was just like, I am getting to do fun projects with big brands, okay? I was like, ठीक है, I'll take that job. I took that job. I went in for 7 months. I did zero innovative projects. I was just designing post, social media posts, or like doing the shittiest work, right? And it's not like the work was the problem. It's like I had been lied to, right? And every day felt like a challenge कि यार आप एक दिमाग में एक expectations रखते हो ना, और वो एक्सपेक्टेशंस कहीं और से नहीं आई, वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में लिखी हुई थी. इवेंचुअली दे कॉल्ड मी एंड देयर लाइक, हम डाउन साइजिंग कर रहे हैं, अरीब, यूर फायर्ड, ओके? I didn't say a word. I was like, good, thank you. And that is where it was like, okay, now, and on that day, it's on that specific day, I remember, I called my dad and I was like, बाबा मुझे अपनी आपकी credit card की details चाहिए. I went to Squarespace, I purchased ajeebstudio.com and I made a post on LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook के guys, मैंने अपना स्टूडियो शुरू कर लिया है, right? एंड मैं अपना कोर्स भी लॉन्च कर रहा हूँ. लकीली जो मैं मेहनत कर रहा था इंस्टाग्राम पे फॉर द लास्ट 3 months ऑफ लाइक posting like posters every day, sharing my process, like doing what I could do, right? That helped me in a moment when I just did my course. Like that जो मेहनत थी वो मुझे हर वक्त जो है ना glimpses मिलते थे कि oh, I'm doing the right thing. Because for example, me selling posters, just posters worth of 70K in 2 days makes you realize कि okay, maybe I'm doing something right. That's why it was more about working on myself rather than other people. Because I know the power of things, not because of 70K, just because मैंने एक पोस्टर बनाया और वो किसी की दीवार पे लगा हुआ है. क्योंकि जब भी कॉन्सर्ट्स होते हैं, कराची की अगर स्पेशली बात करें, उनके पॉपअप्स होते हैं, ठीक है? इट्स अ वेरी गुड वे टू मेक मनी फॉर इवेंट पीपल, बिकॉज पॉपअप पे लोग आए कि ना आए, लाइक इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑडियंस, उन्होंने आपको एक 40,000 का स्टॉल भेज दिया, विच इज एक 10x10 की टेबल होती है, छोटी सी 5x5 की, एक स्टैंड लगा होता है और आपने भेज दिया. यार आपके ऊपर है व्हाट यू डू देयर, राइट? तो आई स्टार्टेड लाइक showing up to those and whatever. So for me, now I was making 85,000 on that job. I was making like 15, 20, 30,000 side pay, right? So let's say 1 lakh rupees, 120-ish मैं कर रहा था, right? For me, it felt good at that time, because I was like, oh, people who just graduated with me are doing so bad. क्योंकि दूसरे fields में it's so hard to, start out and make a lot of money, right? But I realized that was a problem that I had, where I would compare myself to people who are way different than me, right? Or compare myself to anyone, right? And that just makes us feel good कि oh, like इस बंदे ने पूरी महीना नौकरी करके 50,000 रुपये कमाए और मैंने एक प्रोजेक्ट से 50,000 रुपये कमाए, right? We shouldn't do this thing of like, comparing, right? Because it gives you a false sense of happiness. Of course, you should be grateful, but like don't compare, because it kind of falls back. Regardless, so we're at a point where the reason I'm giving you so much context is because this is my class and I can say whatever. No, because I'm giving this context is because you guys kind of understand a sense of like perspective जो जिस चीज़ से मैं build कर रहा था. So now you're fired from a job that pays you 85,000 and now I got used to like spending that 85,000 also. Right? Now that is like how we kind of live. हमें जितने मिलते हैं वो spend करते हैं. It's not like we all like kind of we just sort our lives around it, right? जो पहले होता था कि मैं हफ्ते में एक दफ़ा कहीं जाता था, मतलब क्या महीने में एक दफ़ा जैंडर्स जाता था, मैं उस महीने में 4 दफ़ा जैंडर्स जाता था, जैंडर्स बीइंग अ वेरी फैंसी रेस्टोरेंट, राइट? तो वो लाइक आप अपनी हैबिट्स चेंज करते हो विद द मनी दैट यू गेट. दैट्स अ नेचुरल बिहेवियर. नाउ व्हेन दे फायर्ड मी, आई वाज लाइक, ओके, आई नीड टू मेक 85,000 रिगार्डलेस, राइट? नो मैटर व्हाट हैपेंस. सो आई वाज लाइक, ओके, इफ आई डू अ कोर्स एंड इफ आई मेक 30,000 ऑन अ कोर्स, or in my weekend पे classes पढ़ाऊँ, whatever, that still equates to more, because I'm doing like 10 hours of slavery for a company that I hate, equals to making 85,000 like ये महीने के. और अगर मैं महीने में 10 दिन काम कर रहा हूँ, which is let's say मैं वर्कशॉप पे काम कर रहा हूँ, और वो 10 दिन भी नहीं है, वो 10 घंटे भी नहीं है, वो तकरीबन 5 दिन का पूरा एक एग्जैक्ट टाइम है, and I'm making 30,000. That is much better in terms of my mental health, my money. Now I need to figure out how I can use the other time that I have, right? So I did my first workshop and I had 25 students who paid me 5k, right? And then I realized that there is so many things that no one really will tell you. I've made the same amount of money that I did on a job just from this workshop. Obviously it's not consistent. हर हफ्ते थोड़ी मेरे पास 25 बच्चे आएंगे. पाकिस्तान में लोग ही नहीं है जिनको डिज़ाइन के बारे में इंटरेस्ट है, right? But I realized, okay, I kind of did this. So then it made me realize the power that we have as like creators to work with the community around us and collaborate. So I did my first course, and उस time पे COVID था. Luckily that everyone wanted to study, right? Everyone was like in this phase also कि हमें नई चीज़ें सीखनी है, नई skills सीखनी है. That's where I kind of cashed it on. And this, at the same time, another thing that I did cash on was Fiverr. When I started doing Fiverr properly, like with like a course and whatever, I tapped into things that were kind of popping up at COVID, which were, क्योंकि लोग music videos नहीं बना सकते थे, they were doing music visuals. That's where I kind of came in. So like a lot of things started to like kind of work out. So I realized one thing, that it wasn't being smart for me, because I don't think I made smart decisions. It was like I made all of the decisions. ये opportunities हैं, सारी opportunities ले लेते, right? Fiverr initially for the first 3 weeks did not work, and then it started working. My course were working, but eventually after the 4th course, I did cash out on it. But I was like, no one wanted to do courses because लोगों की job शुरू हो गई, school शुरू हो गया and stuff like that, right? Now, at the same time, courses नहीं काम चल रहे थे, but I was constantly like putting out projects in my studio, right? जो मेरे clients आ रहे थे, तो उससे मैंने एक मुझे deal जो मुझे luckily मिल गई थी कि there was an agency that was going through a turmoil, and they offered me a job. I was like, I can't do a job, but they were like, अच्छा आप हमारे ये 2 clients ले लें, right? And that is my first time I got my biggest client, which was Kareem Middle East. उनका client था, they did all the मेहनत, they just gave it to me and they would take their percentage and I would get the money, right? That's what helped me understand that now I have a client. And then I even hired my first intern from that and stuff like that. But everyone on Facebook knew that I was kind of doing. So my first very project that I got was, it was my senior, जो मेरे स्कूल में 4 साल बड़ा senior था. He graduated, whatever, he was starting his own business. He wanted branding, right? And a website. That was my first project for like 40,000 rupees. And I was like thrilled. I was like, अगर मैंने ये काम के 40,000 rupees की हैं, if I get 3 more projects like this, I could be making a lot of money, you know? And that was kind of like how I started thinking. And then I realized कि जो आपका circle है ना, the community that you have is like your initial client base. And then you will kind of move up from that. And obviously, like answering a few questions, like does everyone know, who knows, for example, Usman, Noor or Fahad or like Zakaria, Rafi or Aliza, like आपका जो भी करते हैं सबको पता है कि आप लोग freelance कर रहे हो और आप लोग अभी projects ले रहे हैं. You have to emphasize that part, you know, and really build on that. So I realized at the end of it, like it's like जो आपका professional front view है ना, for example, let's say today Fahad, Mir और Zakaria और Noor decide कि अच्छा हम अपनी agency खोल रहे हैं, like selectively आप तीनों के पास अपने अपने projects हैं, ठीक है? But if you guys just join hands, now imagine the collateral of projects that you guys have. And now you're going to the market. It just makes you a different player, right? With so much diversity. Right? And that is where like collaboration really comes in. So me collaborating with someone who already had like an agency, he wanted a workforce, right? And I wanted clients. We kind of shook hands. But obviously he wouldn't trust me until if I didn't do so much. Like I remember once, like he was just impressed by my Instagram, and then he went to my YouTube, and then he went to my Squarespace website. He was like, you are the design. I have seen like no designer with like this type of work even after the university projects. क्योंकि university projects में ना सब cool होते हैं और edgy होते हैं, but they lose that once they graduate. They start doing like these generic jobs, and jobs तो सबको करनी है, but they kind of let go of the artistic part of themselves, right? So I realized that just building from the community that you have is the most important thing. Like it's a very important thing. For example, even मैं भी अब ये देखता हूँ, all the people that I hire or collaborate with or like whatever, or like मुझे अगर कोई पूछता है कि कोई कंपनी से मुझे अगर messages आते हैं मेरे दोस्तों की कंपनी से whatever कि like we're hiring a designer, I always recommend people that I know. I don't go and search on Instagram. और वो भी recommend not like अब आपके दिमाग में हर कोई नहीं रहता. It's usually the people that have been like interacting. अब जैसे for example, I especially remember like कि Fahad was working with us, not Fahad, Mir, Fahad. He was animating and illustrating with us. Like मेरे कुछ छोटे छोटे projects आए हुए थे, and Fahad से मेरी बात हुई थी. He was like मैं freelance वगैरह कर रहा हूँ, so like whatever. And I just outsourced the projects with him, and it was him and like other people who were like working on these projects, ठीक है? And क्योंकि Fahad मेरे साथ काम कर रहा था, and at that time someone asked me, okay, oh, we are looking for a designer who does this and this and this. And like, not because Fahad was like the best at what he was doing. Fahad was good at communication. He was doing the good job, but he was like, I don't want to do freelance. I want to do like a full-time job. That's where I recommended him, and he got that job also, like luckily, right? And it's not because ke Fahad did something crazy or I did something. It was very simple. Fahad was like constantly like just in a like, you know, doing his best, putting out work there, not on his Instagram also. Like वो एक collaborate कर रहा था, और जब मुझे किसी के पास चला, मेरे दिमाग में फहद आया था, even though there were other people who may had more experience. But आपके सामने, you know, people trust the things that are around them, right? That is the thing that I want you guys to kind of understand. So it, and being around other people's eyes in like in different ways, right? Physically, you're showing up at these pop-ups, in my case, and showing up on Instagram, or showing up on an Instagram live, or showing up in like different ways, or collaborating with other people. Like I just saw that like Fahad is now collaborating with another artist, right? And that content is not like look at my work, it's more like just sharing his work and his process and like whatever he does, and it feels very interesting. जो लोग Fahad को Instagram पे follow करते हैं देखा होगा, but it's his way of like showing up, राइट? एंड इसमें सटल आप बता सकते हो, ओ मैं एनिमेट भी करता हूँ, ओ मैं ये भी करता हूँ, ओ मैं वो भी करता हूँ. सो देयर लाइक सर्टन फ्लेक्सेस दैट यू कैन डू, बट इट्स द वे यू डू इट, राइट? तो having everyone know, and obviously once you keep on posting on Instagram again and again, your radius of like people who know you, the circle, just kind of expands one by one, right? And the first 2-3 projects that you do, you will realize that those people will connect you with other people. Because a simple rule hai, now that I run a studio and whatever, I am connected with a lot of studio and production houses owner, because I need them now, you know, for one way or another. Ab jaise for example, my friend Shahzad Malik, Shahzad Show, you've probably seen his Instagram funny videos. He runs a agency and whatever. So we are connected on the front for that, just because मुझे sound designing और इन चीज़ों में उससे help चाहिए होती है, right? Very clearly. तो और अगर मुझे कोई प्रोजेक्ट चाहिए जो फॉर एग्जांपल लाहौर में हो रहे हैं, और मैं लाहौर में खुद पर्सनली नहीं होता, वहाँ होती है फॉर एग्जांपल, बट वी नीड लाइक अ प्रोडक्शन हाउस, तो आई नो सो मेनी एजेंसीज. सो लाइक your circle eventually expands, and then whenever I get, I mean, these agencies ask me for designers and animators, I just recommend them someone. I've realized that the work that you're doing, you need to do one thing, which is now comes in the big buzzword that everyone uses, is networking. It's very simple. It is networking at the end of the day. Now networking without some concrete things is a scam, right? Like, and I hate people who just network. कि हे मैंने ये किया है, मैंने वो किया है, वो किया. दैट्स नॉट व्हाट नेटवर्किंग, दैट्स लाइक क्रिंज. कि लाइक वो जो लिंक्डइन पे लोग मैसेज करते हैं, ठीक है? एंड इवन दो इट वर्क्स ऑल्सो, यू कैन डू इट फॉर समवन. फॉर मी इट्स आई एम लाइक, सो आई थिंक व्हाट नेटवर्किंग इज दैट यू क्रिएट अ प्रोडक्ट दैट इज सो एक्साइटिंग दैट अदर पीपल कॉमेंट ऑन इट, right? Other people want to share, other people want to kind of talk about it, right? Use it as that, you know, that's it. Like for example, with a lot of the designers that I follow and whatever, even internationally, उससे जिनसे मैं connect करता हूँ और वो करता हूँ, it's just because उनका काम अच्छा है, and it has made me like I want to be friends with them. You know, I want to work with them. I want to kind of build a relationship with them. So वो चीज़ जो networking, it can only be supported with good work, right? There are people who are so well versed and you know have a big network, but if they don't have work, तो उस network का क्या फ़ायदा? You're just maintaining relationship. I mean, if you want to have a lot of relationships, please do with like other people, but like you need to have an outcome, right? तो लोग जो है ना हर वक्त networking के बारे में बात करते हैं whatever, but what is the outcome of networking? If you suck at your job, if you're networking, it's not gonna help, you know. So that is something that a few things that you guys need to understand that only works is कि आपका network काम करेगा, ठीक है? And it's sometimes very simple thing. For example, when we did Ajeeb Design Festival, right? There's so many amazing creators that came, right? And everyone loved it just because they were like, we didn't have an idea that all these creators exist, not only on the internet, they have real faces. And a lot of the people met their internet friends for the very first time, even though everyone lives in the same country, in the same city. तो ये चीज़ बहुत ज़रूरी थी कि समझना कि it's because no one's making an effort to do it. So if you put some effort into it, like even a very simple example of understanding कि अभी हमारा for example जो हम लोगों ने boot camp के process से गुजरे हैं, right? For those of you who were interacting or giving feedback to other people and sharing your thoughts and whatever, that already created this familiarization towards each other, right? वेरी सिंपल, ये एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती थी पहले, शायद आप लोग एक दूसरे को फॉलो भी नहीं करते थे, बट दैट वन थिंग इज व्हाट इज a step towards connecting and, with other people. Now, for those people who didn't really do anything, even though it was just like, you had an opportunity, like you had a blank canvas. Like, I'm not one of those, वो जो teachers होते हैं ना, आप इनसे talk करें, English में talk करें. It's not one of those things, but you guys need to kind of take an opportunity to connect with people, Pakistan में हर कोई बोलता है, we don't have places to network and whatever. You have the internet, bro. Like, there's so much that can happen, do anything. There is like something that can happen. It's just that it's people don't take the liberty of like, getting out of their comfort zone and kind of connecting with people. And sometimes people have these ideas, these opinions with other people, and like, oh, this looks nice and whatever. Just like complimenting someone kind of builds to a relationship where like of mutual respect, So ये बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं जो we kind of let go, and that is very much connected with, I know a lot of people are introverted or extroverted, but if you're an introverted, pretend to be extroverted just for like some cases, enough. Like, I hate a lot of these things where like, these corporate dinners or like ये or like वो सारी चीज़ें. I just feel like कि जब होनी चाहिए कोई चीज़ वो हो जाती है. I don't like to do certain things, right? But at least I do my part where like I don't shy away of like putting out my work and sharing my thoughts, right? As like a visual artist उस तरीके से. But when it comes to like understanding your clientele and whatever, right, it is not a very direct thing. There is no blueprint. ठीक है. But if you talk to most of the designers, it's either like your friend got you a project or your dad's friend got you a project and whatever, right? And if no one's getting you a project right now, is the best time to just look around all of the businesses around you and just help them out, right? You have to practice just all of the business. Like आपके किसी का home cooking का business है, you create them a restaurant identity, right? Even if they use it or not, you can create a case study out of it, of actual real person, right? You can actually interview them, you can help them, you can create something. The same way if someone owns, like हमारे family में I'm sure सबके businesses वगैरह होते हैं, किसी का तो कुछ होता है छोटा सा, even किसी की दुकान भी है, right? आप उनके दुकान के लिए वो कर लें. Like, I remember my chachu started like this business which was a plastic shop that was just selling like plastic stuff, whatever. And I made him like a banner of like 3D वो जो elements of like 3D cubes and like things is falling, or like full monument में उनकी दुकान का नाम लिखा है and stuff. And I was like, no one in Karachi is going to do that. And I just enjoyed it because you think कि digital से भी आपको फिर physical चीज़ों में मज़ा आ जाएगा चीज़ें करने में, right? And at the same time, build your own products. Always build your own products, because either it's like stickers or wo, or like posters or shirts or like whatever that is, even digital products, building your own products really like kind of help you. And obviously I'm saying a lot of things, do the things that you can do now and kind of like build on it. I also feel this thing where I want to do everything always, but like इतनी identities, इतने projects चल रहे हैं. For example, Ajeeb Design Festival एक चल रहा है, ठीक है, जिस पे सही हम workshop courses करा रहे हैं, मगर हमें अगले साल में hopefully करना है एक और festival, ठीक है, for example. But I just don't want to focus on like one big festival. I want to focus on more small ones also. तो वो चल रहा है. फिर साथ साथ अजीब स्टूडियो चल रहा है, विच इज़ लाइक दिस सर्विस बेस्ड थिंग, जिसके कराची में भी अभी हम फिजिकल इवेंट्स बहुत कर रहे हैं, प्रोजेक्शन मैपिंग वगैरह के. फिर डिजिटल काम भी चल रहा है, फिर ये भी चल रहा है. फिर अजीब कलेक्टिव है, विच इज़ लाइक द होल फैशन thing of like making products and experimental. And then I want to do like other of my artsy. So like I have so much on my mind, but like you need to be very realistic कि अभी इस वक्त इस हफ्ते क्या हो सकता है, और अभी किस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है. Once you have certain things figured out, then you move on to the next thing. Don't just do everything all at once. But yeah, I hope all of this stuff kind of makes sense in any way. Yes, Fahad, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask, as a creator, can Instagram compensate for LinkedIn as an artist? Like, I want to put my work out there, but I found that posting on LinkedIn is like more difficult than Instagram. And I feel like on Instagram, I get a lot more traction also. And honestly, open LinkedIn is oftentimes depressing. So I think उसकी वजह से भी थोड़ा open करना मुश्किल हो जाता है. But do you think if I post regularly on Instagram, that's fine?
I would say कि utilize every platform, like I just like, because the thing is, don't make extra content, but like LinkedIn का ये होता है कि content is very like थोड़ी लंबी कर रहे होते हैं वहाँ पे लोग, right? और थोड़ा cringe भी होता है and whatever, it's fine, ठीक है, let them do that part. But like for you, in terms of like, for example, if you are posting certain things which you think are just like LinkedIn पे, if you're posting, just make the caption a bit longer and just post the same thing over there. Don't make extra content over there. Like I don't even open LinkedIn. I just open it, I post, I copy that link, I give it to my social media manager. I'm like, अच्छा आप सबको बता दो स्टूडियो में कि to interact with the post, right? कि स्टूडियो वाले लोग interact करें, and then I just don't open LinkedIn. सही है? So you create like your workflow, but posting on LinkedIn to anywhere is good, you know, because you don't know like where people will come off to your work. Just I don't use Twitter. But I want to. It's just that I should do it like because I'm making the content. I just need to press a post button, right? But I just like wanted to create like a system where like my social media managers like just posting it everywhere. Okay, चाहे likes आए क्या ना आए, that's not very important. It's not about interaction. It's just like kind of building it, because once you get one person to look at your work, they'll go to your profile and then they'll see all of the other works that you've posted. So that is what builds up a perception, right? I know Instagram is easy to get like more engagement, but that's also like in engagement that's not really helping you make money, for example, right? LinkedIn is kind of an engagement that kind of helps you make money also, right? Because LinkedIn is more of with like boomers and like company owners and stuff like that, you know. तो मुझे LinkedIn से इतने फायदे हुए हैं क्योंकि I've realized के agencies, they're like, for example, event agencies, they always don't have like a very good design team or like an animation team or like a branding team. तो जब भी मैंने LinkedIn पे डाला, I've been exposed to so many people, right? Instagram से भी मिलता है, but like LinkedIn से भी बहुत क्या नाम है exposure मिला है and stuff like that. So I don't think you should be limited to a platform in any possible way कि ये platform ही decide करेगा, because it's like a lot of like in different ways. So just like create content, create a calendar, right? And the content could be like, अच्छा पहले हफ्ते I'm gonna put out like a BTS of this project and then a presentation, and then I'm just gonna post something which is like visually cool, and that is like something, you know, a poster maybe or whatever, right? And then the next week I'm going to do a collaboration with this person, right? And the collaboration could be very simple, like, okay, you and your friend get together, make a logo, make a reel out of it, put it out there, you know, make the process of doing what you're already doing, but make it fun for yourself, right? Because it is a very lonely process being a visual artist, especially if you're working from home. And no matter how much money you make and whatever, it is a very sad, lonely process. So how do you create that, you know, thing? Because the fact that you don't have a 9 to 5, that means you have a 24/7, you know, like you wake up, like abhi bhi main utha it's a Saturday, and I have to reply to all of these emails, all of these messages and all of that stuff, you know, and yeah, so like वो सारी चीज़ें exist करेंगी eventually. So you create a system which is more fun for you and stuff like that. But yeah, coming back to the same thing, have a very good portfolio and everything going on, right? But at the same time, doing free projects for people really is a good start if you don't have anything right now, ठीक है? Or if you want to change this type of project that you're doing, if you want to, for example, go into cafe branding, for example, right? Now the probability of like a new cafe coming in Pakistan is not like very high. But the fact that if you work with 10 cafes, right, or you reimagine 10 cafes of Pakistan, all the cafe owners will kind of see it, you know. Like my friend, he is basically a data analyst. तो वो क्या करता है, वो छोटी small size companies ढूंढता है in the US and stuff, right? And he does this thing where he creates a dashboard for them. He pulls out their data ethically, और उनके लिए ना एक dashboard बनाता है कोई टेम्पलेट पे उठा के, ठीक है? एंड देन ही मेक्स अ पोस्ट ऑन लिंक्डइन विच इज लाइक, आई जस्ट फाउंड आउट दिस कंपनी, और मैं इतना इंस्पायर हो गया उनका जो काम कर रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं, और मैंने ना एक्चुअली उनका डैशबोर्ड बनाया है, और उनका CEO भी इतना अच्छा काम करता है, और ये वो व्हाटएवर. 9 out of 10 times the CEOs follow them, right? एंड वो, और जब भी कोई मसला आता है उसने वहाँ से 3 प्रोजेक्ट्स लिए हैं, जस्ट बाय मेकिंग लाइक अ कॉन्सेप्ट डेक फॉर देम, लाइक अ डैशबोर्ड फॉर देम, यू नो, of their like information coming in together, right? And the last project he did was he was showing that how he did one for like Xander's, and like, you know, like Xander's ke sare reviews pakde from Food Panda and whatever. He created like a dashboard. He's very smart वगैरह, but the best part is that he does these like random things on LinkedIn, right? कि ये companies की वगैरह like ये करता है, थोड़ी वाह करता है, but not like just because वो जो करते हैं ना लोग कि यार ये कंपनी इतना अच्छा काम कर रही है उठाने के लिए उनकी, but like something a bit more deeper is like, okay, we've created like something for them, you know. So if they're like a types of industry that you want to kind of work with, try experimenting these things, you know. And the first year is very interesting, or the first 6 months is like creating a dashboard, creating this like kind of communication and building towards that. And then it's just like a lot of mock projects, a lot of these things that you're putting out there again and again and again and again and again until you realize, okay, what is working and what's not working, you know. Things worked for me is like, because mere kaam ko I describe it as like a journalist, right? So I do branding, but I also do illustration, but I also do animation, and I also do this and that and blah, 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 right? Which is not a bad thing, but like it's not for everyone. The problem with Pakistan is Pakistan just forces how the design economy or the work thing is that Pakistan just forces everyone to become a journalist. Maybe some of us are just there to become brand designers. बस दैट्स इट, और जस्ट लाइक 3D प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन और whatever. क्योंकि आप जब अमेरिका में, यूरोप में और बाहर मुल्कों में जॉब्स देखते हो, यू डोंट गेट लाइक ओनली ग्राफिक डिजाइनर, दैट्स इट, राइट? यू गेट like someone who is doing a specific part of a specific job, right? Like I remember a few years ago I saw a job जो V transfer की आई थी, which was someone who is just going to design covers for their like वो search जो इनका जो upload वाला उसे covers बनाएगा or something like that, तो everyone like बाहर मुल्कों, पाकिस्तान में बहुत journalist वो है, and I get it, you be a journalist at the back but on the front you be a specialist अगर आपकी personality वो है, and that's very important because you need to take a stand on certain things. अब जैसे for example अगर आप लोग illustration और animation करते हैं, I'll tell you one thing where पाकिस्तान में animations के लिए काम है. अब वो एक पर्सपेक्टिव में काम है विच इज नॉट लाइक द लोकल इंडस्ट्री इज लाइक रेडी, लाइक लोकल इंडस्ट्री भी इन्वेस्ट करती है एनिमेशन में, लोकल से ज्यादा यहाँ पे लोकल एजेंसीज जो बाहर मुल्कों से काम लेती हैं, दे नीड एनिमेशन वर्क डन एंड दे आर जस्ट लाइक के हमें करना है, तो एंड दे आर ऑलवेज लुकिंग फॉर लोकल टैलेंट. एंड द प्रॉब्लम इज अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल एनिमेट बट दे डोंट पुट आउट देयर एनिमेशन वर्क. तो लाइक एंड देन फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू डू एनिमेशन एंड ब्रांडिंग, सो मिक्स ऑल ऑफ दैट together, right? Do make projects that where you can fit into the animation part. So for example you do illustration work and you want to do branding, right? क्योंकि हम branding में, तो मैं branding में मुझे पता है कि आप लोग कुछ illustration करते हैं, तो do certain mock presentations of like branding work जहाँ पे you can also flex your illustration, because दो चीज़ें हैं जो अभी हम अगले phase में जाएंगे. It's like how you shape your work.